You're tuned to
And this one?
KSQM 91.5 SQM.
Grab your trowels and hook up your garden hoses. It's time for Gardening with Ciscoe, heard on KSQM through the support of Sunny Farms Farm Store and Nursery.
Ciscoe kid was a friend of mine.
Hey, Ciscoe.
Hey,
Are you with
Paul,
me?
how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
Well, I'm looking out at a white wonderland out there. Man, we got about 6 inches already at my house, and it's coming down hard. My dogs are so happy.
Oh, great. Have they been out in it yet?
Oh, yeah, boy, I've been watching them out the window playing, and they're running through my wife Mary's garden, just beating a Tweedle out of it. But
And you don't think you should
they're having fun.
you don't think you should go out there and intervene and move them over into your garden?
No, if it was my garden, I'd be out there intervening, but
You're
that
bad.
was hers.
You're bad, Ciscoe. I'm going to tell Mary to look out the window and see what your dogs are doing to her garden. Yeah. So we have a bit of snow here in Sequim. We didn't get the big amount we were expecting last night, but it is snowing right now. It's coming down, and it looks pretty. And I'm sure the children are happy. So
The kids lucky.
I
Kids
know.
are so lucky because it's on the weekend. It's not enough snow probably to call school, but it's on the weekend. Oh, they're going to be having fun.
That's true. True enough. So, well, let's get right into this. For all of you who have not heard the Gardening with Ciscoe show before, here we are, Saturday morning, 9 o'clock, Gardening with Ciscoe. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we have lots and lots of gardening questions, and Ciscoe has all the answers. So we are happy about that. So tell us your intro topic for today, covering and protecting plants in cold weather.
Yeah, we may have talked about this before on the show, but with these scary weather reports, I was out there and I grow a lot of plants that are semi-hardy. So I leave abutylons outside. These are those flowering lantern plants, and I also I grow rare things like crinodendron and things. But everybody's got something that they know the cold's probably going to kill it. So the question, I've gotten so many emails this week from people. Instead of making them a question, I just figured I'll just answer that at the beginning of the show. And so people are saying, what should I cover my plants with? Well, there's no problem if you've got a plant and you don't want to dig it out. I moved anything in a pot into my garage, and I wasn't sure how cold it's supposed to get. It's only 28 out there right now. That's not so bad. You get in the low 20s, and if it stays there, that can really kill plants in small pots. So if you've got plants you haven't planted, you bought at the nursery, they're sitting out in your driveway, throw those in the garage till this is over with, But a lot of people ask me, well, can I cover them with a sheet or something? Yeah, you could throw a sheet over a plant and, just make sure you take it off the minute that temperatures become mild again. You can get away with maybe 4 days with a sheet on a plant. Much more than that, then it gets tough. And, when weather gets down to, I remember it hit 8 degrees in 1989, I think it was. I was the director for grounds care at Seattle University at that time. And we covered all these plants. It stayed at 8 degrees for 2 weeks. We lost so many plants, you couldn't believe it. Ceanothus, manzanitas, and ceanothus is a pretty common plant. A lot of us have, and the cold can get it. So if you do throw a sheet over your plant, there's not much you could do. If it's going to stay 8 degrees, the plant's going to make it or it's not. I'd probably leave the sheet on it anyway and hope for the best. But don't forget to put stakes under there, under the cover. Because I'm looking out my window right now at all these plants I covered in my back garden. And I'm seeing one that is just flat as a pancake. Because it was cold when I was covered of it. I got a little wimpy about going and getting stakes and putting them under every cover I put out there. And the ones I didn't put any stakes under the cover, they are really flat. So it'll be interesting. It'll have a new shape now. So.
Okay.
But, yeah, and just want to let people know there is a product you could buy if you plant a lot of rare plants or, have a ceanothus you don't want to lose or whatever. There's a really cool plant cover made for this, and it's called Frost Protect. And you can go online and find that. I always get mine at Charlie's Greenhouse over in Mount Vernon. And they're a little expensive, but you can cover about a 6-foot plant with one, and they got these little cinch things you can tighten it up. They're great. So yeah, I don't know. If this temperature doesn't go down much lower than this, I don't think I needed to cover many of those plants, but, it still might, so we'll see.
Very good. I know over here on the Olympic Peninsula where we are, our temperatures are all in the upper 20s, and 30, and it doesn't seem to be getting any colder than that, even at night. So most of ours over here should be pretty good. Time will tell.
Yeah, time will tell. Frost Protect, just so people know, it lets the air and the light and the moisture through and raises the temperature about 8 degrees. They say you should only put them on in really cold weather and take them off, but I leave mine on all winter long, and most of my plants come out. They look a little rough around the edges, but they come back quick. So.
Oh, good. Great. All righty. So now let's get on with, so that everyone has a chance to think about this and to call us with their answers. Let's do the Ciscoe stumper question. Now tell me, Ciscoe, please tell me you do not have this plant in your garden.
I wish I did, but this I have some others of this. It's called Amorphophallus, and you could tell from the name that it's kind of a wild plant. This is titanium, which is the biggest plant it's the biggest flower in the world. There's some flowers with that are kind of divided that are bigger, but this Amorphophallus titanium, it actually comes from Sumatra, so it needs warm weather, but it produces the largest single flower of any plant in the world, and the blossom can reach over 12 feet tall and 5 feet wide, although most of the ones you see, because some of the famous greenhouses, they had one in the spheres for Amazon, and they've had them at the volunteer greenhouse before. And usually they get more like 6 feet tall and 4 feet wide. And what's so cool about them is that they're trying to attract carrion beetles and flesh flies and all these things that eat dead flesh. So they smell like a whole herd of cattle died in your greenhouse. I was there when one of these just started to bloom. I think it was at Volunteer Park in their greenhouse. People were running out looking like they were going to throw up. It's wonderful.
Wonderful. Yeah, wonderful. That was going to be my question. Why would anybody want to plant this plant, especially in a greenhouse? Of course, maybe this horrible odor that it emits only happens, for a short period of time, and the rest of the time the plant might be quite attractive to look at. But like you, one of the stinkiest plants on earth. and its common name.
And by the way, I grow a bunch of these Amorphophallus in my garden, but they're ones that are hardy. But they give out quite a little punch themselves. I see people walk by going, "Oh my God!"
Yeah, what is that smell? That horrible, horrible smell.
Yep.
And its common name tells us something. Its common name is corpse flower.
Well, yeah, corpse flower. And it's kind of interesting. The name Amorphophallus titanium says a lot about what this plant looks like. And the first one that ever bloomed was in Kew Gardens in England in the 1800s. And young women were not allowed to look at the plant.
No kidding. That's really bad.
No kidding.
The more I hear about...
That was during the Victorian days, you know?
Yeah. The more I hear about this plant, the less I like it. So tell us, now that you've told us all about it, and you've told us, it says right here that scientists have analyzed the mix of 6 or 7 odors that it gives off. So 6 or 7 odors that smell like different things. That's what it smells like.
Yeah.
So what is our stumper question for today?
Okay, so since these scientists have analyzed the odor of this thing and they've pinned it down they actually pinned it down to 6 odors it gives off. I added one of my own. And so what I want people to do is guess what they think these odors are that are in this mix that make this the most vile smelling plant on earth. So,
Okay.
So you can guess whatever you think it might, one of the odors or the contributing odors might be, and at the end I'll tell you what the scientists say they are.
Okay, this is wonderful. So we're going to ask our listeners to guess what these odors are that this corpse plant emits. You can give us a call at 360-681-0000, or you could send an email to office@ksqmfm.com. And we will just anxiously await with bated breath to see what your ideas are. I have several, but I'll keep them to myself for now. And we'll hear what our listeners, the phone's ringing, oh my goodness. We'll see what they have to say. Okay. So next, Ciscoe.
And I'll just add one teensy thing here, just one quick, and that is that usually these greenhouses, wherever they are, announce if they're going to have one of these because they only bloom like every 7 or 8 years.
Oh my goodness!
And so,
yeah,
so they grow them and grow them and grow them, and then they can tell when it's going to bloom.
Yeah.
So they put out announcements. If you see an announcement, go see it. It's something. It's something else.
Yeah.
But, you might want to bring a nose plug or something.
Right. Do you really want to go see it, or do you want to go smell it? You know, for some people...
I think it's the smell that's the best.
Yeah. Ciscoe. Oh, la, la, that's a bad one. Yeah. Okay, so we want you to tell us what you think this its name, corpse flower, that tells you number one odor right there. So we'll see what everyone thinks of that. Now, in the meantime, tell us a bit about your plant of the week. And I'm so glad that it's not that one, the corpse flower.
Oh, okay.
No, a really nice plant of the week, please.
Well, this one doesn't have any odor at all that I've ever been able to ascertain.
Oh, good. That's okay.
It's called Arctostaphylos Austin Griffiths. And Arctostaphylos, if you've ever heard of kinnikinick, which
yes,
most people know,
yes,
that's a little ground cover. Well, that's an Arctostaphylos that is a ground cover. But there are Arctostaphylos that grow quite tall, and we call them manzanitas. And they're native to California. And so there's a nice picture of one on my website today. So they're an evergreen shrub. There are some that drop their leaves, but most type, and the one I'm showing today and talking about is called Arctostaphylos Austin Griffiths. And it blooms, so this is an evergreen shrub, and mine grows to about 12 feet tall, and it's kind of thin, so the sun shines through it, and it's got dark red bark. It's magnificent. And in February, starting in early February, it is just covered with these pink clusters of pink blueberry-like flowers. So these are little bells, and but there's so many that the plant just turns pink, and the hummingbirds are all over them. And right now, you know, our hummingbirds need all the food they can get to get through this cold period. These Arctostaphylos, any of them that you've got, really help them because they bloom this time of year. And the key thing to remember, if you want to grow a manzanita, it has to be in full sun, really well-drained soil. Water it until it gets good roots, and you may never water it again after that. They can rot really easy if they don't have perfect drainage. That's the one problem. But boy, are they beautiful, and they play a key role for our Anna hummingbirds. So,
wow.
Great plant.
That sounds like a beautiful plant. I like the sound of that one way better than the corpse flower one. So people who want to make note of Ciscoe's plant of the week, and they may want to get out to a nursery and buy one and put one in their yard, if they remember the common name of manzanita, manzanita, and the variety that you have is Austin Griffiths, right?
Yep, but
Yep.
there's a lot of good ones. So.
Yes. I know I looked it up in the gardening Bible, the Sunset Western Gardens, and they actually didn't have Austin Griffiths in there, but they did have another one that's probably very similar to it. So, plant of the week, yay, sounds wonderful. Thank you, Ciscoe. I'm going to just quickly run by our local weather here, and then we are going to head right into our first question of the day. So guess what? If you live anywhere in Port Angeles, anywhere on Whidbey Island, even Forks, and Victoria, BC, we're all exactly the same. You're either 29 or 30 degrees. It is snowing there, and that's it. So look out the window, and that's what you get. And here in downtown Sequim, we have 30 degrees, 86% humidity, barometer on the rise at 29.73, and really light wind from the south-southeast at 2 miles per hour. And that's it for, it's what you see is what you get today. And half an hour or so, we'll have a look at the weather forecast. But that's it for now. So, Ciscoe, this is Shar from Mukilteo. And she says, listen to this. Hi, Ciscoe. She said, I enjoyed your hummingbird talk with the master gardeners a couple of weeks ago. And I keep my feeders out all winter, even when I have to microwave or defrost them from time to time, first thing in the morning. So here is Char's question. She says, I have a narrow area between my garage wall and front sidewalk. It gets a fair amount of sun. I keep it watered, and I put soil-building compost there, but anything I plant seems to struggle. Is there a way to build up the soil, or should I dig out the area and start with fresh planting soil or something? It seems like the soil depth isn't that great, though it does drain okay. Is a low soil depth the big problem? What do you think, Ciscoe?
I'm thinking that it might just be the low soil depth, and so if you've only got, like, let's say 4 inches of soil and you're trying to grow any kind of annual or perennial or, shrub or anything, that's almost the roots just have nowhere to go, and it probably backs up with water to boot. The problem is, if if what I suspect is probably somebody brought in some good soil and put it over some really bad clay or hardpan or something, even if you dig down a foot or more, it's still a bathtub. So the water all goes in there. It can't get down through that clay or hardpan very quickly, and so it backs up and it drowns your plants. And that's what I suspect is happening, Shar. So you know what I think I would do? I would see if there's a way you could build a raised planter. I know this is either against the side of your garage or your house. I'm not sure which. But if you could figure out a way to build a raised planter so you could bring in, some really good potting soil and, raised planter, then that's not going to back up, because in your raised planter you want to make sure there's some kind of gap so the water can get out, so there's no way it can build up and flood. And if you could do something, use some kind of plastic wood or whatever you can get, or you could use stones, anything you could find to make a really neat raised bed, I think that'll solve the problem forever. It'll be a lot of work to do it, but you'll never have that problem again in that area of your garden.
Thank you so much, Ciscoe. Great information for Shar. I would not have known what to do with that. But what you said sounds wonderful, suggesting she build a raised planter and bring in good soil. And then she can have it deep, and the roots will be happy, and they'll all live happily ever after. Okay. Question number 2 from Edith. Are you ready for this one? Edith says...
I'm ready.
This was one that we didn't get to last week. So, Edith, we hope you're with us this week, because we've got your question here. And she's asking Ciscoe, can you recommend any shrubs and perennials that will survive in the dark shade under a stand of conifer trees? I've tried a few plants, but nothing seems to want to grow there.
Edith, that is the hardest place to grow anything. Of any conditions I've ever dealt with, it's dry shade, and especially under a big stand of conifers, because they're getting every drop of water. So you got two things against you. You got dark shade, which not a lot of plants will live in, and then you've got those conifer roots everywhere, sucking up every drop of water there is. So I think there are, over the years, I've done a lot of experimenting with plants. Now, one thing I want to warn you about, if you go to the nursery or something and you ask somebody what's something that'll grow under, they use conifers in a ring, there's 3 plants I want to warn you about right away. Don't plant. One is called lamium. People call it dead nettle, and I bet you know that plant, Flo.
Yes.
It is an aggressive ground cover. That's the reason some plants can live under there, because they can live under the worst conditions there ever were. But if a plant does that well in horrible conditions, think how good it's going to do in good conditions. And I've seen it take over whole hillsides. So stay away from lamium, agapodium, and Euphorbia rabii. Whatever you do, those are 3 plants that are often recommended I wouldn't touch. But I could tell you a few. There's a really cool plant that I have in a really shady, tough spot in my garden, and it's called aucuba. And aucuba, they come in different colors. The most common one I see is called gold spot, and it looks like somebody just, it looks like a dragon flew up on it, I think. It's got all these gold spots all over it.
Is that how dragons throw up? Oh, my God.
I've always wondered if that's what that would look like. It probably smelled an Amorphophallus.
Yeah, for sure.
But a Cuba, my favorite one is called Pictorata, And you can find that at a lot of good nurseries. And so, check wherever you live. If your nursery has Pictorata, you'll love it. It looks like someone took yellow paint because they have real dark green leaves. They're a shrub, kind of look like a rhododendron shrub in a way. But Pictorata looks like someone dipped a paintbrush in yellow paint and then just went, shot it onto the leaves. So you get big streaks of yellow, spots of yellow. You could prune them to any height you want. They're super easy to prune, and they could take dry shade like nothing, so it'll really glow in there. The plant that everybody recommends, and I love it too, is called epimedium or bishop's cap. And so these are plants in the winter. A lot of them, they're evergreen, most of them, not all of them. And in the winter, the leaves on a lot of varieties turn really dark red and look real pretty in the forest setting. And then in spring, you cut them down in about mid-February, and these really pretty little flowers that look like bishop caps come back up, and then new leaves come up, and then they don't do much for the rest of the summer. But another one I thought I'd recommend, if you got room for a big plant, these Mahonia media, and I used one the other day named Charity for a plant at a week, and they have been blooming all winter long. They're just pooping out now, and they really feed the hummingbirds. They get 15 feet tall, some of them, but they're just covered with these candelabras of yellow flowers to die for. And then just add a couple others. A lot of ferns can take really dry shades. So, go to your nursery and say, I need a Dryopteris that'll handle that really dry conditions. And even our native sword fern, Plisticum unitum, just loves dark, deep shade and thrives in it. And just for fun, try a Trillium ovatum. That's our native Trillium. Sometimes they'll make it, but here's the thing. So all those plants I just listed, the only chance any of them have is if you water the tweedle out of them until they grow a good root system, then you should be able to leave them alone. They should be able to handle it on their own. So.
Wow, Ciscoe, that's a lot of great ideas for Edith. I hope she was writing them all down. I was trying to, but now I can't read my writing. So I don't know. I don't know that I can help to review them. But a few that you mentioned were Alcuba, Gold Spot, and Pictorata, and Bishop's Cap. And but this giant Mahonia media, if it's 6 or 8 feet tall, that might be too tall under these trees, under these conifer trees. Yeah. But ferns, she can't go wrong with our local fern and sword fern and native Trillium. So, Edith, we hope that helps to answer your question and give you some ideas of what you could grow under your stand of conifer trees. Thank you so much, Ciscoe. And let me see, it is 29 minutes past 9. You are tuned to KSQM 91.5 SQM. And I think we will go ahead with one more question. But remember, if you have an answer to the stumper question, 360-681-0000 or office at ksqmfm.com. And we want to know what does that lovely plant that Ciscoe told us all about with its corpse flower, what do you think it smells like? That's what we want to know. And I mean, that's a serious question. We all really need to know that. We do.
Yes.
Life cannot go on until we know what this plant smells like. Okay, here we go with question number 3. And this is from Kathleen, and it was a holdover from last week as well. So Kathleen, hope you're with us today. And here is Kathleen's question. She says, my supposedly dwarf, we know about dwarfs, don't we? My supposedly dwarf Hinoki cypress is getting too tall for its location. Can I prune it to keep it in size, or am I better off digging it out and moving it to a location with more room. That's from Kathleen.
Most of the time, I would say dig it out and move it for most plants. But Hinoki cypress is one I have found that you can really prune. Now, make sure it's really a dwarf Hinoki cypress. I mean, there are Hinoki cypress that get 40 feet tall. And if you try and keep that thing at like 3 feet tall, it's going to be like 20 feet wide, you know. It's like, but if it's truly a dwarf Hinoki cypress, I have a whole bunch of them. I absolutely love those trees. And the problem is they all do try to get too big. You know, no plant stops growing. And so I prune mine down. I just prune down to where it branches off on the main trunk. And then I might cut back the side ones a bit, you know, back to where they branch out. And I've been able to keep Hinoki cypress under 4 feet tall for years in my garden. So that's one. You can prune it, and they move. They're pretty easy to move too. So if you feel like, hey, I don't want to do all this work for the rest of my life, I'm going to move it, you can do that. But they are very prunable. Dwarf Hinoki cypress, I say, try pruning it for a while and see how it goes.
Very good. Thanks, Ciscoe. It's very prunable. I've never heard that expression before, but I like it. It's prunable. So go ahead, Kathleen, prune away, because Ciscoe said it is very prunable. Okay, we got answers coming in. Are you ready for this? Oh, my goodness.
Oh, boy.
Well, here's one, a comment that is not about the stinky plant. A caller called and said he recommends sword ferns for between buildings and dark areas. And I think you did mention that, sword ferns.
Yeah, sword ferns are great.
Yeah, very good. But it's nice to know they're listening, isn't it? And that they have comments and they know things about plants too, our listeners do. They're all gardeners. They're all gardeners or they wouldn't be listening.
Yeah, and deer fern, for people listening, those live all around in the Olympics and everything.
Yes.
Deer ferns are just the toughest plant you ever met in your life.
Right.
I wanted to get rid of one, and I never was able to do it. It's still out in my garden.
Okay, so guess what? We've got answers coming in from people who have comments about your horrible, stinky plant with the corpse flower on it. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Here's a listener, Tristan in Seattle. Tristan says, I have walked by this plant in Indonesia. Oh my goodness. It is absolutely nauseating when in bloom. It's a huge plant. The odor is reminiscent of rotting carrion. Avoid this plant. That's what Tristan in Seattle says. Thank you, Tristan. I agree with you. I don't even want to see it or smell it in my whole life. Anyway, next one. Hi, Ciscoe. This plant is said to smell like the worst sweaty, smelly socks boiled in fish guts. Terrible.
Oh, that's pretty good. I like that.
That's a good one, isn't it? I bet that's what it smells like. And this is from, she or they say all the very best to you and Flo, your fans in Coupeville. And I bet I know who that is. Yeah, we're listeners from way back. We go back a long way. Friends in Coupeville. Okay, very good. I like that. Sweaty, smelly socks boiled in fish guts. Okay, and last but not least, here's Gladys with her comment on the corpse plant. She says, smells like dead animals. A friend once encountered one of these during the war. He said it was similar to battleground aromas of death, but also like Limburger cheese that has gone off. Who in the world would want such a thing? Isn't that just so true?
When I was a kid, I slept in this. There were 7 kids in our family, so to keep from having to share a room, I slept up in the attic where glasses of water would freeze overnight. But because this was Wisconsin, But my parents kept Limburger cheese on the stairways that went up to my room. Oh, I'll take that Amorphophallus over that.
Really bad, huh? Really bad. Okay.
Oh,
Obviously,
boy.
our listeners are listening and they have ideas of what this corpse plant smells like. That last one, that would be my first guess. The very fact that it's called a corpse plant would, of course, it brings up memories of, visions of, whatever, of corpses. Okay. Just, and keep calling, give us your ideas. You might be the winner. You never know. And the prize. The prizes we give out here are just incredible. So our phone number is 360-681-0000 or office@ksqmfm.com. And we are going to go on with one more question. But before I do that, I just want to share something with you and a song. Don't you think it's time for a song?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. The song is Banana Split, the McGuire Sisters. Great little song. And that reminds me that I actually have a friend right here in Sequim who has 3 banana trees growing in her yard. I think they've got about an acre and a half. These 3 banana trees are 25 to 30 feet tall. Right now, they are all totally covered. She covers them for the winter, I believe with canvas. And you can imagine that she puts her husband to work on this one, right? They're 25, 30 feet tall. The leaves on these banana trees are 6 to 7 feet long, and they do produce bananas. They flower and they produce bananas. The bananas don't ever get a chance to ripen. It's, of course, just too cold here. But these trees are incredible. I have actually seen them. I just wanted to share that with you. People think we can't grow things here in Sequim. We grow everything from weeds to Sequim potatoes, rocks. We have lots of them, and banana trees. So there you go. So I am going to
and I have bananas in my garden too. They're really
Do
fun
you?
to grow.
Oh, good. Good for you. Okay, so we're going to hear Banana Split, which you could make if you had a banana tree that produced bananas and got ripe. Here we go.
Hey,
Yum, yum. Wasn't that just the cutest song ever and makes you want to have a banana split?
that's a banana sounds good right now.
I know, that sounds much more appealing than this plant, this corpse plant with sweaty, smelly socks boiled in fish guts. That's terrible.
People have been making some pretty good guesses. I'm marking off.
And there's more coming in.
Right. So.
More coming in. Yeah. Here's another one. You want to hear this?
Oh, sure.
This is from your big fan in L.A. Do you know who that would be?
Cool.
Have you got a friend in L.A.?
No, but I've been getting some emails from somebody down in L.A.
Okay, I bet it's the same guy. I don't know his or her name, but hello, big fan in L.A.
Cool.
Here's the plant question. He or she says, I guess that it smells like a corpse. Duh. But do they... No kidding. But do they grow here? Do they grow in Seattle? How do we rid the planet of such things? You're a big fan in L.A.
Oh, cool. Well, they only grow in greenhouses. So UW, they are growing a bunch of them. And they have a big greenhouse on the campus. So they're growing a bunch, I know. And they loan them out to different greenhouses when they know they're going to bloom. So that different people in different parts of the city get to come and experience this amazing event when these things bloom. Can you imagine walking through a forest filled with these in Sumatra? Oh my gosh, you probably just never make it. You just end up stuck in the forest for the rest of your life, which would probably be very short.
That
Just
forest,
that much
yeah.
damage to get through there.
There's probably no people or anybody ever goes into that forest. It would be left to grow and produce however it wants to, forever and
Oh, my
ever.
gosh.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for, imagine that, only in greenhouses. Thank goodness for that. And that the university actually loans them out to other places so they can experience this wonderful experience also. Yeah. Okay. Oh, and here's one more. Hi, Ciscoe. This is Gloria in Squim. She says, I think it smells just like dead bats, possibly dead rats. I hate them all.
Dead rats. Oh.
Dead bats or dead rats, and she hates them all, as we all do. We all hate them, and probably that's what they smell like. Okay. All right, moving right along here. I'm glad we had a little break and talked about banana trees and banana splits because that's much more pleasant. Okay. Are you ready for question number 5? Connie. This is
am
Connie.
ready.
Connie's one of your neighbors in northeast Seattle. She lives in View Ridge. Yeah. And Connie sends
pretty
cheers to you, Ciscoe. And she says,
Cool.
what is the risk and benefits, or pros and cons, of having a moss lawn? Almost 3/4 of our lawn has turned to moss this year, and the other 1/4 is mud. Many of us have lawns like that. No, we actually have pretty good grass. But anyway, yeah, 3/4 moss and 1/4 mud. I'm wondering if we just let the moss take over and have that instead of grass. What is your take on that? We have 3 dogs, and I do not want to use moss killer, nor do I want to put it into our water stream. So it's either rip it all out and add topsoil and grass seed or sod, or just have a moss lawn. Would love your thoughts on this topic, or point me to any articles you know of. Cheers from a fellow Northeast Seattleite, Connie.
Well, I know I've written about this when I wrote for both the PI and the Seattle Times over the years. But so when I directed the grounds care at Seattle University, we had some lawns that were in the shade. See, grass hates shade, and it always thins out. And moss is opportunistic, so it moves in anywhere where grass thins out. It can really even be in the sun if you don't water your lawn or anything or take care of it, then it can turn to moss. So we had some lawns that started becoming more moss than grass, and I don't particularly like to use chemicals, any kind of chemical pesticide. Now they do make a soap that kills moss, but it didn't seem worth it to me because the grass is going to stay thin if it's too shady and everything. So we made a decision, let's let it turn into moss. And there was always some grass in it, but it actually looked nice and green. We had to water it because moss dries up in the hot summer sun. Even if it's in the shade, if it's not shady enough, and a little sun gets in there, it could dry it up. But we didn't have to water much because most of these were pretty shady. Here's the problem. So you'd think, okay, just let it become moss. And it sounds like a really great idea, Connie, but here's the problem. First of all, you have 3 dogs. And the real problem is moss has almost no roots at all. It just barely sends little teensy roots down into the soil, and so the problem is can't take any kind of traffic. You can walk on it a little bit, so we let it go to moss on lawns that we knew people weren't going to be walking on very much or do anything. But if you got 3 dogs playing out there on a moss-covered lawn, you're going to have mud really fast. And so, you know, what you could do is take the sunniest spot out there and maybe turn that into a lawn. You have to fence the dogs out of there, and, you know, sod would probably be the quickest, best way to do it. And, you know, so you could turn that back into a lawn if you've got an area with enough sun. You got to have at least, you know, probably need at least 5 or 6 hours of sun to have a good lawn. If you don't have that, then I think I would just enjoy the mud. because, the dogs are going to tear it to shreds no matter what you do. No lawn's going to make it if it's a shady, cruddy area. And the only problem is you get a lot of mud tracked into the house by the dogs. And I don't know the answer to that one, but I don't think you could turn that into a moss lawn for anything except for if you do have a sunny area, you could make that grass.
Very good. Thank you, Ciscoe. I'm sure Connie will have some serious thinking about that lawn. And I loved your comment that moss is opportunistic. I hadn't heard that before. I love it. I'm going to join that in with that the Hinoki cypress is very prunable. So there are some plants that are very prunable, and there are some that are opportunistic. We learn so much from Ciscoe every day. So it is time now. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Let me add one thing, Flo, really quick.
Okay.
Just because I want everybody to hear this, and that is that moss killer is all it is iron sulfur when you put it down on your lawn, but it's got really a lot of iron in that. And my friend's cat walked on the grass after she put that iron sulfate moss killer on her lawn. It licked its paw and it killed her cat.
Oh,
So,
no.
Be careful if you use moss killer. Don't think that it's just safe stuff. I'd probably go with the soap if I had a pet. And it could hurt wildlife, too. So
Yeah.
just wanted to say that quick.
Yes, absolutely. That's really important to hear that and have it in the foremost of your mind when you're thinking about moss killer. All right, 11 minutes to 10 is the time, and this morning weather report is made possible through the support of Sunny Farms Country Store. The National Weather Service is calling for snow, mainly before 4 p.m. today, with a high near 31. Wind chill values between 10 and 20. Breezy with an east-southeast wind 20 to 25 miles per hour, becoming southeast 7 to 12 in the afternoon. Winds could gust as high as 33 miles per hour. Tonight, a chance of snow, mostly cloudy, with a low around 26. Wind chill values between 19 and 24. Tomorrow, Sunday, snow is likely before 1 and then rain likely. Cloudy with a high near 38. Wind chill values between 24 and 34 and calm wind. Monday, rain on Washington's birthday. Rain and showers after 10 a.m. and a high near 44. Partly sunny Tuesday and Wednesday with a chance of occasional showers, high near 46. Thursday should be mostly cloudy with a high near 48, getting up there, getting warm. A winter storm warning remains in effect for the eastern and western Strait of Juan de Fuca, including Sequim, Port Angeles, Port Townsend, Joyce, and Clallam Bay. Oak Harbor, Coupeville, and Langley. Heavy snow is expected with accumulations of 1 to 5 inches. Winds gusting as high as 40 miles per hour. Travel could be very difficult. A gale warning remains in effect until noon today, and a small craft advisory remains in effect until 4 for the local waters of the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Mariners can expect southeast winds to 35 knots. This morning weather report has been made possible through the support of Sunny Farms Country Store. At the moment, we have 31 degrees in downtown Sequim and no wind at the moment. Okay, Ciscoe.
All right.
Here we go with question number 6 for today. And this is from Vince in Edmonds. And he sent pictures. Oh my goodness, I wish we were television. Well, actually, no, I don't. But if we were, then we couldn't wear our, pajamas to come in here and not comb our hair or whatever. Radio is great. And I wouldn't be here because they don't have like really old people on television. They make them retire at a certain age. But radio, you can just stay here forever as long as you can still talk. Okay, so anyway, Vince in Edmonds sent in wonderful pictures, which we get to look at. Ciscoe has seen them, and I get to see them too. And Vince in Edmonds, he said, This is a dandy. You're not going to believe this. He's talking about aliens, and Google search thinks he's crazy, but he has pictures to prove it. So anyway, here we go. He says, "Hi, Ciscoe. I've started to notice that something in my yard is dragging sticks and pine needles down into the ground, leaving them perpendicular. Attached are a couple of photos, though they don't show the phenomenon very clearly. Any idea what is doing this, or perhaps more importantly, why?" I dug down into one cluster, but didn't discover any alien beings or anything at all for that matter. These are not growing sticks, as there are no roots, and as noted in some cases, they are pine needles. I couldn't come up with anything on a Google search. In fact, Google thought I was crazy. I've lived in this home for over 10 years. This is the first time I've noticed it. So, Ciscoe, what do you have to say about this to Vince in Edmonds, Washington?
Well, Vince, you're a rascal because you have stumped the living Tweedle out of me.
Yay!
I can't imagine. I looked at those pictures, and I figured, there must be roots under those sticks. They're perennials that maybe he forgot were there, but he says there are no roots under there, and a lot of stuff is sort of sticking up. And I thought maybe wind blew and the stuff fell, like pine needles fell from really high and just kind of ended up standing up. I don't know, but that's the only thing I could think of. Now, if there was a whole bunch of like rhododendron branches piled up, something like that, then I would think you might have a mountain beaver dragging things to its little den where they take them in and eat them. But I didn't see any sign of anything like that, and so I am totally stumped, and I'm just hoping that Vince, if you ever figure it out, you gotta give KSQM a call so that we could tell everybody what this phenomenon is, because I have no idea.
Great. Hey, Vince, this is, you're the winner today. Absolutely. Because nobody gets to stump Ciscoe. I mean, it is rare. It only might happen maybe like once every 5 years or something that Ciscoe gets stumped. And he is stumped right here on KSQM 91.5 today. So, Vince, you're the winner. And we love stumping Ciscoe. Ciscoe, what you just said at the end there about mountain beaver, that was my first thought when I saw these piles of sticks. I said, maybe there's a baby beaver in the area, and he's been taught that he's supposed to build a beaver dam, and he thinks he's going to start here with these sticks. That's what it looks like, the beginning of a beaver dam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does kind of look like that.
I know. What if we're right? What if we're right? Wouldn't that be amazing?
Wouldn't that be something?
But in the meantime,
well, we'll see.
Ciscoe is stumped.
Time will tell.
Yep. Okay, good. That was good. It's good to have a stumper question coming at you from the other end, right? You're always stumping other people.
Yeah, I guess so.
I know. Okay, you've been stumped today. Yay. All right. If you still have anything else to add about the sweaty, smelly, boiled fish guts, terrible smelling plant. Somebody mentioned Limburger cheese. I mean, I think I don't know what else you could add to that. Dead bats, dead rats, all of the above. If you think you can top any of those, please give us a call at KSQM, 360-681-0000, or email office at ksqmfm.com. I think everyone who's listening probably agrees with all of the above, and they just can't think of anything to add. Okay, another question. We have time. Let me see. It is 4 minutes to 10. Yes, we have 4 minutes to answer this one. Mike, and he sent a picture, and this might be, I wonder if Mike is your same big fan from LA, because he's in Southern California.
I think so.
Do you think it could be Mike?
I think so.
Well,
I think it could be Mike.
Could be. Okay, well, Mike sent an email and a picture from Southern California, and he says, I wonder if you could advise me on the condition of these trees. It's very dry here in Southern California, and I worry I may lose them. The fronds, I think he means the fronds with a D, are yellowing
Yeah.
and the tips are turning brown. Any advice would be appreciated. Thanks, Mike. What do you have to tell Mike?
Well, when I looked at this palm tree, what I noticed is that a lot of the fronds are kind of leaning down, and that is normally a classic case of overwatering. And what I'm thinking is, now, I don't know when you planted this palm, Mike, but if you just planted it and you didn't water it much with this drought, then it could be lack of water. But if it's been there for a while and you're being really careful to water it really a lot, because I know you have big drought down there, then it could be, if that soil doesn't drain that well, it's going to show the same symptoms of not enough water, and that's because the roots start to rot and the plant can't pick up the water it needs. And whenever I see fronds starting to lean down, kind of starting to rot out here and there, I usually think this could be too much water. So here's the thing. If you've been watering it like crazy, then it's probably too much water, and maybe the soil doesn't drain as well as it should. But if you haven't been watering it much, then it could be drought, and you need to up the ante. But what I would do is dig a hole by your palm, a foot or two away, and dig it an hour after you do your normal watering. Then dig a hole, wait an hour, dig a hole about a foot deep, a foot away, and see what the soil's like in there. Is it full of water? You know, is the ground just saturated? Is it bone dry? That'll tell you a lot. If you're over or under watering, that'll help quite a bit. And if when you dig the hole, you could barely get the shovel through the ground, and the hole doesn't drain at all, then that's a good sign. You may have to dig that palm up and move it to somewhere with better drainage, make a raised bed, whatever you have to do, find a spot that drains better, because whatever's going on, that palm is not happy. And so it's one of those things. It's either too much, too little water, or really bad drainage.
Very good. Thanks, Ciscoe. I hope that answers your question, Mike, and gives you an idea of what to do with that plant next. And we hope it's successful and that you get to save it. It looks like a beauty. Okay.
Well, Mike, it's fun that you listen to KSQM. That's really cool.
It is. It is really cool. It is 10 o'clock, and you are tuned to KSQM 91.5 SQM. And we have time for one last question. Okay. Ciscoe, and I haven't read this before. I've read everything up until this one, so if it doesn't sound right, it's me not reading properly. Hi, Ciscoe. This photo is of my neighbor's yard, late 2020. Oh, and this is from Marlene in Burien, Washington. Thank you, Marlene, for sending this in. So she's in Burien, Washington. She said, I had a photo of this yard being inundated with crows going to town, digging it up, but I lost it. She lost the picture, so she couldn't send it. But it was a picture of a mass of crows in her yard digging it up. The thing is this, now our lawn, my husband and I, have the same problem, but not as bad yet. We're noticing other lawns throughout our neighborhood also looking torn up. Some lawns we see the crows in action. The European chafer beetle larvae you mentioned sounds like a good reason for the damage that we are seeing. I'm reasoning that for some reason there's a huge infestation of these critters underground, and that when the crows, raccoons, etc. eat them all up, our lawns will go back to normal. What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you what. After looking at what the crows did to that lawn, it looks like a battle scene or something. I mean, that grass is totally torn up, and I don't think the grass is going to go back to normal, and it's probably all rough and messed up. And yes, I do think that you have European chafer. We've talked about this once on the show, but it doesn't hurt to mention it again because a lot of people don't know about this. It's an insect that has moved into our area over the last couple years, and it's a beetle about a half-inch long, tan color, and if you've got them in your lawn, they do mating flights in June and July, right at sunset. You'll see all these. They're like a June beetle. They make a big buzzing sound, and all of a sudden, you'll see hundreds of them come out of your lawn and fly around, and then they're going to mate and come back and lay eggs, and you're in for big trouble next year. Now, only the larvae eat the grass, but they eat the grass causing harm. But the real harm quite often is when raccoons or crows get in there. Now, I don't think I mentioned this the last time I talked about these pests because I've been doing more research on them. And so there is a parasitic nematode you can buy that really does well in controlling these pests. Now, nematodes are microscopic worms. In a little box, there is 100 million of these worms. And you got to mix them up. They have directions. You mix them up in a watering can, and then you got to have the soil has to be moist when you put them out, and then you put them out when it's shady out, and keep the soil moist. But and the time of year you do that is, I'm trying to remember right now. I know you do it in fall, so I'd say August, late August and early September is when you would do this. And what that'll do is after they came back and laid all their eggs, those little larvae are just starting to eat. These little worms invade the body of the larvae and gobble them up. And and this is a very safe thing. They don't eat beneficial insects. They don't affect humans or pets, wildlife. So it's a really good way to go. And I wouldn't even buy the nematodes till next year. And you might, call your favorite nursery and say, can you order these things for me? Now, there's only one nematode that works. And it's got this horrible name. And what I'll do is I'll ask Mary to put that on my website next week. Because nobody, and you're not going to do it till next August and September anyway. So, because nobody in the world's going to be able to write this down, even if I spelled it, it's huge. So, I'll put that on my website and put in a note right here to not forget. And you can get this nematode, put it out there, and if you do it right, I think you probably will be able to take care of this problem. In the meantime, what you could do is just smooth the area out where the crows and raccoons are working on there, if it's even worth doing, and then just reseeding in the spring, and maybe the grass will grow back, but you still got the problem probably, so I think it's going to take, maybe the crows will eat them all. It could happen, but you're going to want to be doing those nematodes in the fall. And then I think you can put in a good lawn, and it should be great. It should last, and you can put the nematodes the following year just to be safe, and you should have that problem solved.
Great. Thank you, Ciscoe. Wonderful information. And I hope she made a note of that she needs parasitic nematodes, and she won't use them till next August or September. And that Ciscoe is going to put the name of it on his website so that she can get it exactly and make sure she gets the right one. Very good. Thank you for that. And she adds at the end of her question something else here. And there's time for you to perhaps give her a bit of information on this also. She says, I'm looking at the photo of you, Ciscoe, in your absolutely gorgeous garden on your website. I just realized how starved I am to be in nature. Can you recommend a good garden pictorial book of yours for me to drool over? I know I need to physically get out somewhere and experience nature in person, but it never seems to happen, and I'm not sure where to go. And she says, cheers to you, Marlene Burien, Washington. So any idea of gardening books that she might look at? I know there's a gazillion gardening books. Something that might that she might like.
I've written 4 garden books, 2 I co-authored, 2 I wrote myself.
Uh-huh.
And there's not a picture in one of them. It's just the way I do it.
I know.
My last was all short stories about gardening. But I know there's a lot of great picture books. One of my favorites, what was that called? I can tell you this much. It's by Little and Lewis. And I think it's called Using Art in the Garden, something like that. It had a fancier name than that.
Uh-huh.
But Little and Lewis, look up their book. It is so beautiful.
Okay.
These are 2 really great friends of mine that are such fantastic gardeners. There's
Good.
also a really nice book out by Dan Hinckley, who's a really neat guy that lives over in Kingston that I think has some magnificent pictures in it, too. So those are 2. One thing I'll mention quick is that there is a website that describes all the best gardens to go see, all the public gardens that you can go see in Washington State. And, with this pandemic and everything, they're one of the things that have stayed open. The Bellevue Botanical Garden, there's Blodell Reserve, all these great gardens, Heronswood. So this website, which I can't think of the name of, I've written some things for them in that, but you can just do a search for gardens in Western Washington. There might even be some in Eastern Washington listed. And if you get on that website, you can find out how to go see them. And it's a wonderful way to go out and see beautiful gardens without, being in big crowds. The other one is NPA, Northwest Perennial Alliance. They have open gardens that you can go see people's gardens for like $5, and you go see spectacular gardens. And my garden was open this summer, which was a real surprise that they got to do it, but they did. 250 people came to see my garden between 10 and 4 o'clock.
Oh, my
in the
goodness.
afternoon. But everybody wore masks, and they had people being real careful to keep everybody distance, and it was really fun. So there are ways you get to go see great gardens.
Yes, absolutely. They're all over the place, aren't they? It's just a matter of getting involved and paying attention to what's going on in your newspapers or radio station in the area where you live. And you can always check with your master gardeners in your area to see if they have a garden show each summer. Almost all of them do, except now for COVID, of course. But thank you, Marlene, for your questions and pictures and all of it. And I'm sure Ciscoe has given you some great information. And we're about to wrap this up, but something has come in by email. And, Wendy from Happy Valley had a comment about the dragging sticks around in the yard and making those things. She says earthworms can cause this, dragging sticks around and leaving them there. Those must be some pretty powerful, muscle-bound earthworms, though, because some of these sticks were pretty big.
I wonder how they do that.
I don't know how they could do
they
that.
They don't have very big arms,
I know they don't, but who knows? We don't have all the answers, do we?
Maybe she's seen this happen.
Maybe she has. Thanks, Wendy. We'll keep an eye out for earthworms moving giant sticks around in the yard, on the ground. And then one other thing that has just come in. And you maybe know about this, Ciscoe, but maybe you haven't had a chance to do any research on it. It's a comment by email from Shar, the one that wrote in about a different plant earlier. And she says, what does Ciscoe know about the warning that was on the news last night? And I actually read about this in our local newspaper in the last few days. A warning about birds having salmonella that's being spread at bird feeders, and that we should take all our feeders down, take them away. Especially with this snow, the birds need the feeders so much. What should be done? And we have heard about this, and we actually did take one of our feeders down. We leave the, and this applies to only certain birds, and it's the finches and the sparrows, any in that family, at least that's what our newspaper said. And that the reason is that the birds, it's not that there's anything wrong with the feed or anything like that, but the birds congregate in great numbers around these feeders. So there's a lot of birds, and they're too close together, and they are beginning to catch a disease and spread it around. So they suggested we take our feeders down. Have you heard about that?
I hadn't heard about this, but I'm not surprised to hear that it would be finches and sparrows, because if you look at your bird feeder, they always just conglomerate on there, you know. There's so many of them. And, well, I'll tell you, here's something I can tell people will make them happy. And that is, I used to feed the birds like mad. I would put black sunflower seeds out. And I always got mad because the finches would come eat them all, and they're real pigs. They throw the seeds all over the garden, and they'd be growing underneath and everything. Well, then all of a sudden one day I saw rats in my garden. I had never seen rats in my garden. Pretty soon I saw they were going to the feeder. So I went out and bought a bird feeder, a rat-proof bird feeder. And my wife, Mary, came home from work the next day, and here is a rat stuck in the bird feeder with his fat hinder sticking out the back, trying to get out. It finally got out, but she was all upset. And, you know, we were seeing so many rats, and she's going, you got to quit feeding the birds, you know.
Right.
So I did.
Yeah.
I stopped feeding the birds, and I have quite a wildlife sanctuary here. There are so many birds, you can't believe it. And I was really bummed. I thought all the birds are going to leave. Not one bird left except for the finches and the sparrows. Everything else, all my nuthatches, chickadees, you know, all those great birds that are out there, of course, the hummingbirds. What really matters is that they have water. So if you have lots of bird baths, you have some fountains, different places the birds can get water, they can, if you've got a good garden with lots of plants, they'll get all the food they need out of your garden. But the bird baths are really key. So you know, make sure there's plenty of water out there for your birds. You don't need to feed them, and you'll still have all your birds. That's what I found.
Very good. Thank you. And I know it said in this article in the paper that we read was that the birds are not going to starve if you don't feed them in your feeders, that they will forage, and then they won't be congregating all together. And that's what the problem is with this disease, that they're all too close together. We sometimes see 7 or 8 birds in our one feeder all eating. And so they said, take these feeders away for now, and it won't be forever, and until we no longer have the worry of this disease that they're spreading around. That's all I know about it. And I'm sure we'll hear more about it from, you know, the Audubon Society and so on. So
that you sent that in.
Yeah,
really
for
neat.
sure. Another caller called in and said that could the voles be moving these sticks around? I suppose that's possible.
Well, it's possible. Voles are field mice. They're horrible.
Right.
They're one of the worst things you can get. It is possible. I would think that he would know because they eat so many plants. It's unbelievable. And I don't know that they'd be, you know, they don't really eat pine needles that I've ever seen or sticks. They're more into little perennials and things, but usually greenery. They may even be kind of just snoozing underground in the winter. I'm not sure. But it could be. That's a really good thought. Whoever said that, That's something to watch for.
Something to
Wolves are
watch,
terrible.
yes.
You don't want them.
Absolutely.
Ugh.
Well, this has been a great show today with lots of questions, lots of answers, and lots of participation, which is always fun. But it's now time for us to wrap it up. But speaking of the birds, do you have chickens, Ciscoe?
No, I've never had chickens. Many of my friends have, including my wife's sister, Kathy, had chickens.
Right.
And I think it would be wonderful getting those wonderful eggs. But with my 2 dogs, I'd be a little nervous about it.
The dogs would love it. They could chase chickens all day long. Okay, so we're going to say goodbye to Ciscoe. And I'm going to leave you with a great song that you can think about.
Hold on 1 second. I got to give the answer to that.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So, Amorphophallus, they call it corpse flower, and it does smell like a corpse. But the scientists have actually figured out what the individual smells are that forms this horrible, vile odor. And some of you got it right.
I know.
So,
okay, here we go.
One of the odors, okay, here it is. One is Limburger cheese.
Okay.
So people got that. Nobody ever mentioned garlic. Smells like Limburger cheese and garlic. Rotting fish, so somebody got that. Sweaty socks, somebody got that. And then mothballs, and it also, with all that, has a sweet cloying floral scent mixed in. And finally, this is my addition, overcooked Brussels sprouts. So that's it. That's what it smells like.
Oh, my goodness. So I think we've all agreed today that we do not want to see that plant or smell it. But then if it comes, if it came to my neighborhood and I knew about it, I think I'd have to go and see it. I think I would.
You got to go see it. You got to experience it.
Yes, got to experience it once. Okay. All right. So, Ciscoe, we're going to say goodbye for today. And I'm going to leave you with a special song just for you in case you change your mind about chickens. It's the Chicken Song by Guy Lombardo and his Royal Canadians. And by the way, this is Flo. I never even told anybody, but maybe people know that this is Flo. I've been here with Ciscoe this morning again for the 3rd week in a row. But guess what? Sassy Susan is back home, and she'll be here next week with Ciscoe. So Ciscoe, next Saturday, it'll be hello to Sassy Susan. And I'll be still around. You know, I'm around here and there. You never know where to go for Flo. But it's been great.
Next time I come up to Squim, I'll meet you over there.
Oh,
so I get to know you.
Absolutely.
And, it's been great working with you. You've been a blast.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ciscoe. And here we go with the Chicken Song. There you go. That was Guy Lombardo and his Royal Canadians, the Chicken Song, one of my favorites from way back. 23 minutes past 10 is the time. You are listening to KSQM 91.5 SQM. Gardening with Ciscoe is heard on KSQM through the support of Sunny Farms Farm Store and Nursery, offering a variety of plants, trees, annuals, perennials, and indoor plants. Sunny Farms Farm Store and Nursery also features tools, organic fertilizer, pest control, potting soil, and a selection of organic livestock feed and pet food. Located next to Sunny Farms Country Store on the north side of Highway 101, just west of Sequim, Sunny Farms Farm Store and Nursery is open 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m.